Today I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit about the crochet tools that I cannot live without. As someone who crochets a heck of a lot, I have a few tools which are constantly being used and I really don't know what I would do without them at this stage. So if you guys aren't using any of them, then take note because they're game changers for me. I'm Jessie of Crochet by Jessie, and let's get into today's video. I have been crocheting for a very long time now. I was taught when I was 7 years old, and I've had a few gaps obviously between how often I've been crocheting since then, but now I've been crocheting solidly for the last 6 years, and the way I crocheted initially versus the way I crochet now, two very different stories. So I thought I would tell you guys these things instead, because maybe there are a few things that I'm going to talk about in this video that you guys don't actually do, and maybe they will make a positive change for you. Number one, I used to crochet, well, I was about to say I used to crochet for hours and hours on end. I still do. But I used to suffer very badly with repetitive strain injury in my right wrist. It was concerning. It meant I couldn't crochet for a very long time at points when it got really bad. And that's just not great. That's not what I want. I want to be able to crochet when I want to crochet. So the biggest tool that has changed this for me are my ergonomic crochet hooks. They've been made cute, obviously, just because it's fun, but the beads you see here are silicone. When you're crocheting, you hold like this, so you're wrapping your hand around the actual beads instead of just using like a metal hook. And when I tell you that my quality of crochet has just changed drastically just from using these, it is mad when I really think about it. I think in the last, I want to say 2 or so years since I think I've had these hooks for about 2 years now, maybe just under. It's hard to keep track, honestly. I have maybe had 2 or 3 moments when my repetitive strain flared up, and even then it was minimal. I just noticed that my wrist was like a little bit more tender. It was nothing compared to what it was like. And I would argue and say I am crocheting a lot more than I ever was before when I was also having those issues. So these hooks, they're amazing. Not only are they fun and exciting and a bit different, but they've made my quality of crochet it's such a better experience overall. And I'm not having to limit myself a little bit more because of how cautious I have had to be in the past. So ergonomic crochet hooks, seriously consider getting them. They are so useful. I did have previous ergonomic crochet hooks where they kind of had like the silicone strip, which you can kind of buy in more places. I'll be honest, for me, they didn't really do the job as much. I find these extremely comfortable to use. So if you're like me and just some of the regular standard ergonomic hooks you're not really sold on, try something like this. I use them every single day without failing. I have multiple different sizes. So the one I just showed you was a 4.5mm. I have loads of 3.5 because that's what I typically use nowadays. And I think it's even more important when you use smaller crochet hooks to make sure they're ergonomic, because they can be fiddly. And I found personally that my wrist pain was worse when I was using the smaller hooks, which is what I like to focus on doing. So it's good to bear in mind. My second tool that I could not live without when it comes to crochet are stitch markers. I did not use stitch markers for quite a long time. I think I first got myself a set in 2020. I think it was when I really decided I wanted to pick crochet up during lockdown, and I bought a bunch of yarn and a few more hooks, and I got stitch markers. Before then, I did the trick of just weaving some yarn in and using that as a stitch marker. But I'm telling you now, actually using a proper stitch marker, it's very different. I would always manage to yank my yarn makeshift stitch markers out. I don't know how I managed it. I think I'm just clumsy at heart, honestly. But these stitch markers are amazing. They're inexpensive. They are good for so many different reasons. Reason number one, here is a project, a design that I'm currently working on, and I am mid-round. You can put your stitch marker in the loop that you're working with, and your work will not come undone even if it gets pulled on. That was a huge issue for me in my earlier years of crochet, because I didn't realize really that they were a thing, and the amount of times I accidentally undid work when I was like picking a project up after I just threw it down somewhere. It was a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted stitches. So stitch markers have been amazing for that reason, but there are more. Stitch markers are great at putting pieces together, such as if I'm making wearables, I show how it would look if I were to place it over myself and have it together with the stitch markers instead of sewing or crocheting the piece closed, just to see if I'm happy with how it looks. And to make sure I'm placing stitch markers just to kind of indicate, oh, okay, this is where I want my neck hole to be, or this is where I want my straps to be, just to give me a bit of a visual whilst also keeping note of where I want the stitches to go for that. Because with mosaic crochet especially, it can be a bit intense to try and figure out what you're doing. Stitch markers are the perfect solution for that. And finally, if you are doing a design which is a bit more complex and you're finding it a little bit more confusing and you're working with a certain amount of numbers for each repeat, then you can always use your stitch markers just to place and show where you need to be working, well, what you need to be doing when. So I've had a lot of people who, when first doing mosaic crochet, they will have every 10 stitches counted, noted, just marked with their stitch markers. And that can be really great for some people because it can be difficult to fully visualize what you are doing whilst you're doing it, especially with mosaic crochet, I find. So having stitch markers to just kind of separate each section, just so you can kind of have a bit more of a visual idea of what you're doing and if your placement is correct, they're amazing. I never thought that a tiny piece of plastic like this could do as much as it can do, but seriously, they are amazing. You can get them in lots of different forms, but those are the really standard ones that I typically use. I have a few fancier ones, which I also love, but those already, yeah, they're amazing. They've had such a change for me and a lot less frustration and a lot less accidental frogging of my projects. The next tool that I couldn't live without is especially important for me for traveling. I have been traveling a lot more in the last few years, and one thing I could not deal with, depending on the holiday, different if I'm running around like a headless chicken for like a crazy holiday like I just did, I need to crochet. I need to, otherwise I go crazy. Or in my head, I need to at least have the option to crochet, because I guarantee the one time I don't take a project on a trip, I'm sat there for whatever reason and I could really do with a bit of crocheting. Really happens with me quite a lot. So one thing to overcome the issue of traveling, which you need to sort out, is scissors. I have these scissors here. These are the ones that I use in my day-to-day life because they are very convenient. They have a very small blade function, so it is small enough that airports shouldn't get funny with them, but I get paranoid that they would confiscate my scissors. So these scissors have an extra function which make them a little bit more ambiguous and just overall less dodgy, because some people will look in your bag, see all your stuff. It will be very obvious that you either knit or crochet, and they'll still be questioning why you have certain items. So to make this look less confusing or misleading for some people, this is what these scissors can do. So you keep the blade shut and you can hold one side and close it and pull the other side around and close it. So your scissors are extremely portable. They look a lot less scary to people in the airport, and it means that you're going to be able to work on your project whilst you're away without worrying about your scissors being taken from you. I have taken those scissors on quite a few trips already. I'm planning already to take them on my next trip because I know my next trip is going to have a lot of time to crochet. Especially, yeah, it's going to be a crochet heavy trip. I'm going to have a lot of time during journeys and winding down in the evening where I will be working on probably new designs at that point. So I want to have my personal pair of scissors with me, because I feel like, tell me if you guys agree or disagree in the comments below, but I get very attached to a specific set of scissors and I like to have those scissors with me as I work on a project. And I may be sounding extremely crazy for saying that, but do you guys have a comfort pair of scissors that you work with? Please do let me know, and I'll either find out if I am crazy for saying that or if you guys get it, because I question if that's just me. The next tool, which I could not live without, ironically, people may argue is not a tool, but I definitely think it is, and that is a tote bag. I have multiple tote bags. I literally just brought one back from Prague as a souvenir, and they are the perfect project bag. I used to use plastic bags in the days where I had less income coming in and I was not as crazy crocheter wise as I am now. And just the difference between going from that to a tote bag and having a specific tote bag for a specific design. I've got a lot of tote bags and I've got a lot of either yarn that's been separated into a bag because I will work on that for a separate project, or just design or project whips that I've got in separate bags. I find it so much easier to manage what I actually have when I have it separated, because my worst nightmare is having one bag with numerous design whips in it, because I'm not going to be able to necessarily recognize all of them that are in there, and then I lose track of them, and then I wonder where they've disappeared to. But the reality is it's on the project bag on my bed. I just don't realize it's there because I've got 6 other projects in that bag, which is intense. So tote bags, the more the merrier. Try and keep yourself limited to 1 project per bag. If you can't, make sure it's easy to tell between the projects is all I could suggest. But it's been a huge, huge shift and a game changer for me by using tote bags when I crochet. So those are the non-negotiable 4 crochet tools that I could not live without. I feel like if even one of them was taken out the equation, my crochet experience would be very, very different to what I am used to and what I hope for it to remain to be. I think that crocheting in itself is such a fun experience, but to be able to make it more enjoyable and more sustainable and just help yourself in the process is so important for the longevity of crochet, for you being able to continue loving it, to not have frustrations with it, such as accidentally frogging it and having stitch markers to prevent that, or from having potential wrist pain, which could be prevented or reduced depending on what kind of hooks you use. So these are very important, and if you guys potentially don't do or have any of these tools that I have mentioned, then please do consider doing so, because it really is worth it in my opinion. Let me know in the comments below as well, what is your favorite crochet tool that you use and why? It'll be very interesting to see if you guys have tools that you use which I haven't even heard of, which maybe I'm not familiar with, or ones that are maybe just like a silent hero that I'm not really aware of myself using, but looking back on it, maybe I do. If you guys would like to see more videos like this from me, but you're not already subscribed, please do consider doing so, as well as pressing the bell to be notified when my next video is up. I like to do a bit of anything and everything on here. A lot of it will end up being mosaic crochet related, because that is my absolute passion. And I feel like the tools I used today or spoke about today are even more important with mosaic crochet, because that can be fiddly and complex and use a lot of colors. So I feel like it's very relevant to the tools that I have discussed today. I use all of them a lot, especially in mosaic crochet. Thank you so much for sticking around for today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.